What if the greatest British war films were never the loud ones? What if the most honest stories slipped past audiences because they refused easy thrills? Some films do not shout for attention. They wait. They linger. They dare you to slow down. Halfway through this list, one quiet masterpiece changes everything. Not with noise, not with spectacle, but with something far harder to forget. Number 10, The Cruel Sea, 1953. This is not a war film about victory. It is a film about endurance. The Cruel Sea drops you into the long, grinding routine of Atlantic convoy duty, where days blur together and pressure never lifts. There are no sweeping speeches here, no flashy moments designed to impress. Instead, the tension comes from repetition, cold nights, endless watches, decisions that must be made in seconds and remembered for a lifetime. What makes this film so underrated is how brutally calm it is. The danger never announces itself. It just arrives, a sudden alarm, a sharp turn, a choice that cannot be undone. The officers are not fearless icons. They are tired men carrying responsibility that grows heavier with every passing mile of open water. Audiences in later decades overlooked this film because it lacks spectacle. But that is exactly its strength. It understands that real strain does not come from chaos. It comes from waiting, from knowing something will happen and not knowing when. The performances feel lived in. Conversations sound like they belong to people who have not slept properly in weeks. Even moments of relief feel muted, as if joy itself has been rationed. The Cruel Sea is underrated because it refuses drama for its own sake. It respects the quiet cost of duty. And once you settle into its rhythm, it stays with you longer than most louder films ever could. Number 9, Ice Cold in Alex, 1958. This film pretends to be about a journey. It is really about stubborn survival. Set against the harsh North African landscape, Ice Cold in Alex follows a small group pushing through heat, exhaustion, and uncertainty. The war fades into the background, replaced by thirst, friction, and the slow breakdown of patience. Every mile forward feels earned. What makes this film overlooked today is its restraint. There are no grand statements, no sweeping musical cues telling you how to feel. Instead, the tension grows from silence, from glances, from arguments that mean more than they say. The desert becomes its own character, wide, empty, relentless. The environment presses down on everyone equally, stripping away rank and pride. What remains are people forced to rely on one another, even when trust feels thin. Modern viewers often miss this film because it does not behave like a typical war movie. There is no rush, no constant momentum. But that slowness is the point. You feel the fatigue, you feel the irritation, you feel the fragile relief when progress is made. Ice Cold in Alex is underrated because it understands that survival is not dramatic. It is repetitive. It is uncomfortable. It is personal. And by the time the journey ends, you realize you have been holding your breath right along with them. Number 8, Went the Day Well, 1942. This is one of the most unsettling British war films ever made, and it barely raises its voice. Set in a quiet English village, the film begins with normal routines and polite exchanges. Nothing feels wrong. That calm is deliberate, because slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifts. Strangers arrive, details do not line up. Small inconsistencies pile up, and then the truth surfaces. What makes this film so underrated is how early it understands psychological tension. There are no elaborate set pieces. The fear comes from familiarity turning hostile, from the realization that danger does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it blends in. Released during the war itself, the film dared to suggest that threats could exist anywhere, even in places that felt safe, even among faces that looked friendly. That idea was uncomfortable then, and it remains effective now. The villagers are not heroic archetypes. They hesitate, they doubt themselves, they make mistakes, and that realism gives the story weight. Courage here is not dramatic. It is reluctant. It is forced. Went the Day Well has been overshadowed by larger productions, but its influence is undeniable. It understands that fear works best when it creeps in quietly. Once it does, it never fully leaves. Number 7, The Hill, 1965. This film turns war inward, and that is why it still stings. Set almost entirely within a military detention camp, The Hill strips away combat entirely. What remains is authority, pressure, and the slow erosion of dignity. The heat is constant, the rules are absolute, and the power dynamics are suffocating. What makes this film so underrated is its focus on systems rather than spectacle. There are no external enemies here. The conflict is internal, between leadership and control, between discipline and humanity. The camp operates on routine. Punishment is normalized. Questioning is discouraged. And over time, the lines between order and cruelty begin to blur. The film never shouts its message. It lets the environment speak. Performances feel raw and unpolished. Conversations are tense because everyone knows the consequences of saying the wrong thing. The pressure builds not through action, but through repetition and silence. Audiences often overlook the hill because it does not fit expectations. It is not about battles. It is about power, about what happens when structure becomes more important than people. That is what makes it unsettling. And that is why it deserves far more attention than it gets. Number 6, The Small Back Room, 1949. This is a war film about the damage that lingers long after the noise fades. Rather than focusing on the front lines, The Small Back Room follows a brilliant but deeply strained expert whose work happens behind closed doors. The pressure is invisible to the public, but constant. Every decision carries consequences. Every mistake echoes. What makes this film so overlooked is its intimacy. The story unfolds in cramped spaces, offices, rooms, corridors. The danger is intellectual rather than physical, but no less intense. Failure is not an option, yet certainty is impossible. The film explores how responsibility isolates, how being relied upon can quietly erode confidence. The lead character is sharp, sarcastic, and visibly worn down by expectation. His struggles feel modern in a way many older films do not. Audiences expecting traditional pacing often miss its brilliance. This is a film about thought, doubt, and mental strain, about carrying a burden that cannot be shared. The Small Back Room is underrated because it understands that war does not only test bodies, it tests minds. And sometimes the most lasting pressure happens far from public view. Number 5, Dunkirk, 1958. Before spectacle took over, this film chose patience. This earlier British take on Dunkirk does not rush. It does not overwhelm. It observes. Instead of locking on to constant movement, it pauses with civilians, soldiers, and ordinary people caught in a moment they barely understand. What makes this version underrated is its balance. The story shifts between the beach, the sea, and the home front, without treating any one perspective as more important. Retreat is not framed as failure or triumph. It is simply survival, unfolding in real time. The tone is restrained, almost polite, and that restraint gives the film weight. Fear exists, but it is controlled. Courage appears quietly, often without applause. The film trusts the audience to notice small details rather than forcing emotion. Modern viewers often overlook this film because it lacks intensity by today's standards, but that is exactly why it works. It captures confusion instead of chaos, waiting instead of noise, uncertainty instead of certainty. This Dunkirk is not about scale. It is about people adjusting to events that move faster than their understanding. That humility is rare, and once you tune into its rhythm, the film reveals a depth that many louder versions never reach. Number 4, The Siege of Jadotville, 2016. This is a modern film with an old soul. Set during a little-known conflict, The Siege of Jadotville tells a story about discipline, isolation, and being left behind by decisions made far away. A small group is placed in an impossible position and expected to hold firm without support. What makes this film underrated is how little it relies on exaggeration. The tension comes from planning, communication, and endurance. Every move feels measured, every pause matters. The pressure is constant, even when nothing is happening. The film avoids easy hero moments. Instead, it focuses on preparation and restraint. Strength is shown through patience. Leadership is shown through calm. The story respects intelligence more than bravado. Many viewers dismissed it as just another streaming release. That misunderstanding buried its strengths. This is a film that values accuracy and responsibility. It understands that courage does not always look dramatic. The Siege of Jadotville deserves more attention because it challenges expectations. It proves that modern war films can still be thoughtful. And it reminds us that some of the most important stories were never meant to be loud. Number 3, The Long Day Closes, 1992. The masterpiece. This is not a war film about battle. It is a war film about memory. Set in wartime, Liverpool, The Long Day Closes captures conflict from a child's perspective. Sirens, shadows, silence. Fear that arrives without explanation and leaves without warning. What makes this film a masterpiece is its restraint. Nothing is forced, nothing is explained. The war exists at the edges of life, shaping emotions without ever taking center stage. That distance makes it more powerful. The film drifts through moments rather than scenes. Schoolyards, homes, streets. Each memory feels fragile, as if it could fade at any moment. Sound design plays a crucial role. Echoes linger. Music feels like thought rather than soundtrack. This film was overlooked because it defies expectations. There is no momentum, no traditional structure. It demands patience. But those who give it patience discover something rare. The Long Day Closes understands that war is not always loud. Sometimes it is a feeling that follows you home. That changes how you see the world before you even understand why. That honesty is why this film grows stronger with time. It does not ask for attention. It earns it quietly, and once it settles in, it never really leaves. Number 2, The Battle of Britain, 1969. Accuracy scared audiences more than drama ever could. The Battle of Britain is often remembered for its aircraft, but that focus misses the point. This film is really about systems, about coordination, about pressure stretching across an entire nation. What makes it underrated today is its seriousness. The film does not chase emotion. It documents it. Decisions are made in rooms, consequences unfold in the air, and the distance between the two creates constant tension. There are no single heroes dominating the story. Instead, the film presents a network of people all doing their part. Pilots, controllers, planners. Every role matters. Every delay costs something. Modern audiences sometimes find it slow, but that slowness reflects reality. Waiting, preparation, fatigue. The film respects the audience enough to let events speak for themselves. The Battle of Britain remains one of the most honest, large-scale war films ever made. Its refusal to dramatize every moment is exactly why it deserves renewed appreciation. Number 1, A Midnight Clear, 1992. This film whispers where others shout. Set during the final stretch of the Second World War, A Midnight Clear follows a small group operating in a frozen landscape where exhaustion has replaced enthusiasm. These are not eager fighters. They are tired people counting days. What makes this film so underrated is its honesty. Conversations feel awkward. Humor feels forced. Hope feels fragile. When opposing forces encounter one another, something unexpected happens. Understanding replaces hostility. If only briefly, the film explores a question few war movies dare to ask. What if everyone wants it to stop? There are no sweeping speeches, no musical cues telling you when to feel inspired. The cold does the talking. Silence does the talking. Faces tell the story. Audiences overlooked this film because it does not fit the usual mold. It refuses to simplify. It refuses to comfort, and that refusal gives it power. A Midnight Clear lingers because it treats humanity as something delicate, something easily lost. And when the illusion of peace breaks, the impact is devastating precisely because the film earned your trust first. Some films chase attention, others wait for the right viewer. These British war stories were never meant to shout, they were meant to linger. If one of these surprised you, share it. If one stayed with you, talk about it. And if number 3 changed how you think about war on screen, you already understand why quiet films often leave the deepest mark.